When you think of the great ancient civilizations, what comes to mind? You probably think of Egypt and the pharaohs building their pyramids, or Mesopotamia and its kings building massive ziggurats. But right alongside them, another huge power emerged in the Indus River Valley, and this one presents us with an absolutely fascinating mystery. So that's the big question, right? This is the central puzzle of the Indus Valley Civilization. For years, archaeologists have been digging up evidence of this incredibly advanced, complex society that's just missing a ruler. So today, we're going to investigate this ancient anomaly.
All right, let's get into it. We're talking about a Bronze Age superpower that was at its peak from around 2600 to 1900 BCE. Now, this was a truly sophisticated, organized society that really makes you question some of our most basic ideas about how ancient states are supposed to work.
And the sheer scale here is just mind-blowing. At its height, the Indus Valley Civilization covered more than 1 million square kilometers. Just to put that in perspective, that's way bigger than ancient Egypt or Mesopotamia at the same time. This wasn't just a few villages. We're talking about a massive network of over 1,000 cities and settlements. So the first big clue to how they managed all this comes from the ground up, literally, in the incredible design of their cities. Their whole approach to urban planning was unlike anything else happening in the ancient world. And this is what's so fascinating. It shows you what their priorities were. While other societies were pouring all their money and manpower into giant monuments for their god kings, the people of the Indus Valley, well, they were investing in something completely different: public infrastructure. And the engineering of the Harappan people, that's another name for them, was just brilliant. Their streets were laid out in this perfect grid, lined up with the cardinal directions. The bricks they used were standardized to an exact 1:2:4 ratio across that entire 1 million square kilometer area. And get this, their sanitation system, with covered drains and private bathrooms in most homes, wouldn't be seen again on that scale until the Roman Empire, thousands of years later. Now, you'd think that this level of organization and standardization, it has to be coming from a powerful central authority, right? A king, an emperor. But when archaeologists went looking for the palace, for the throne room, they found nothing. The archaeological record is totally silent where you'd expect it to be the loudest. There are no sprawling palaces like you see in Mesopotamia, no giant statues of some conquering king. Their graves, they're really modest. None of the crazy gold treasures you find in Egypt. And their art barely ever shows scenes of war or warriors. It's wild. So, how on earth did they do it? Well, right now, scholars have two main competing theories. One idea is that it was a kind of theocracy, a council of priests who kept order through shared religious beliefs. The other theory points to a more corporate structure, maybe a loose coalition of powerful merchants and landowners who ran things through economic cooperation. So if it wasn't a king holding everything together, then what was it? Well, it looks like the Indus Valley was built on a series of really powerful, interconnected systems. Things like a shared economy, incredible technology, and a common set of beliefs. And we actually know their economy was a pretty big deal because their neighbors in Mesopotamia wrote about it. We found these cuneiform texts from the Akkadian Empire that talk about ships from a land called Meluha docking in their ports. And scholars are pretty much certain Meluha was the Indus Valley. You can see their incredible tech skills at the port city of Lothal, where they built this massive tidal dockyard. They engineered this sophisticated system with a sluice gate that could trap the high tide. This allowed huge ocean-going ships to safely dock and unload cargo. I mean, that is just an amazing understanding of hydrodynamics for that time. And on the ritual side of things, you've got the Great Bath at Mohenjo-daro. This thing is an enormous public tank, perfectly waterproofed with natural tar. And it probably wasn't for just taking a swim. Because it's located up on the city's high citadel, it was likely the heart of religious life, a place for ceremonial purification that might have been key to their entire social structure. So what happened to this amazing civilization? Well, it didn't just collapse in some dramatic, fiery event. Instead, starting around 1900 BCE, it began this long, slow process of change, where people started moving away from the big cities. So here's how it all seems to have played out. For about 700 years, the civilization was thriving. But then, around 2000 BCE, the climate started to shift. The summer monsoons, which were so important for their farming, started to get weaker. The rivers they depended on began to change course or dry up, and over a few centuries, people just slowly abandoned the great cities and moved eastward.
Now, for a long time, the popular theory was that they were wiped out by a violent invasion of so-called Aryan nomads. But that idea has been totally debunked. There's just no archaeological evidence of a major battle or massacre. And even more amazing, recent DNA analysis from skeletons at one of their cities, Rekiguri, proves the population had no genetic link to those later migrating groups. Nope, the real culprit was climate change.
So what does this all mean? The Indus Valley Civilization is still one of history's great mysteries. But you know what? It offers us a really powerful lesson about all the different ways a society can organize itself.
At the end of the day, the Indus Valley gives us this incredible counterexample. It challenges the idea that you need an all-powerful ruler to build a big, complicated, and highly organized society. They found another way, one built on systems, on consensus, and on shared values rather than just top-down commands.
And that leaves us with one last really interesting question to think about. In a world full of pyramids and palaces, the Indus people built drains and dockyards. In an age of god-kings, they created a society of systems. 4,000 years ago, their focus was on civic welfare and the public good. What can that teach us about what we choose to build today? If you want to dig even deeper into this incredible civilization, you can find a link to the full source document and a quiz to test what you've learned down in the description below. Thanks for joining me for this one.